Hi, welcome to Building SaaS with Python and Django. My name is Matt Lehman, and on this stream we work on Django apps. We're going to continue on my homeschool application that I've been building for many streams now. And tonight we're going to field some user-reported issues that kind of get into the business logic of my app, which is all about scheduling homeschool stuff. So that sounds interesting. Stay tuned. But before I get to that, though, I want to say thanks to those who are able to support me. So if you like what you see and you want to financially support me, you can on Patreon at patreon.com/mblehman. And I want to say thanks to Rupert, Andrew, Dragos, Patrick, Eric, Miguel, Philip, Peter, and Shiva. Appreciate your support. You really help motivate me to keep going on this, aside from making a nap for my family. And yeah, your contributions are more than welcome. I'm actually planning to use some of that money here in the near future to improve my studio setup that I've got. I'm in a new locale, if you've watched on previous streams, and I'm down in my basement, but I've decided to turn my basement into a more serious studio. So hoping to up the production quality on this stream over the coming months as I invest in more stuff. So anyway, that's what's going on there. Let's get into some coding, shall we? So you're free to ask me anything about Python, Django, or web development. That's what I'm here for. Purpose of the stream is to get some work done on an app and show you what it's like to work on Django in context of a real project, but I like answering your questions too. So happy to take any breaks as you have questions as they arise. So we have last stream we just finished off a bulk task deletion feature. We've been working on that for a handful of streams, and I put together the content blog post to notify my users that it's out. So that's all merged and deployed, and we're back to a good state where now it's time to pick something new. And so this evening, what we're going to do is fix some of the scheduling bugs that my primary users have been reporting. These are kind of weird corner cases in the application, and we have to dig into the data and figure out what's going wrong and try and wrap our brains around the specific problem. And it's just the guts of working with an app in real life. The reason that it's important for me to focus on this, and the reason why I'm showing this to you on the stream, is because it's the core of the application. It's what's adding the most value to for my customers. So I want to make sure that it gets done and is prioritized. And sometimes working on bugs does not feel like the most glamorous work, but it's the most valuable work from my customer's point of view. So with that being said, let's get to it. Let's go look at the scheduling bug that I have. I believe it's this one, and we will see what we can do with it. So the application, if you haven't seen it, if you haven't been on the stream before, I will fire it up so we can look at it together and you can get a good reminder of what it's about. Again, it's just a homeschooling application, so it's about scheduling what's going on in a family's homeschool. And let's log in here. Oh man, do I remember the account credentials? I think I do. This is just dummy data that I have, and there's actually not much in here, so we might have to, in the process of doing this, if we want to really recreate the problem, we might need to add some more data, but this is the idea. The application shows like a week view that can tell you what a family needs to do, what different students need to do for their classes. This data doesn't look very pretty because it's not very representative, since I just filled it in the different boxes with kind of junk. But it gives you an idea. You can imagine that the school year would be billed out, and a student would have 8 to 10 courses or however many courses they're taking in their school year, and there's a bunch of activities for each day with gaps on when they're running certain things and not. So the user reported, and the user in this case happens to be my wife. It's one of the scheduling bugs that she found. She found that when she was looking ahead for into a future week, that there was an off by one calculation somewhere. So it's kind of a hunt on what is actually going wrong, and can we recreate the data, and then once we've recreated it, can we actually fix the problem. Actually, since I'm in a new location, I'm going to peek at my OBS stuff and see how I'm doing. Okay, not too many drop frames. Apologize for that. It's a little behind the scenes. As part of my future setup, I'm hoping to actually not have a single small monitor. So I think, I don't know if I've described this much in the past, but The reason you see only a small window is because I'm on my laptop here, and I only have the single screen in front of me. So where you actually see the chat, I'm kind of hiding my OBS setup and my actual chat window to interact with you all. I'm hoping that will change in the future, and that you'll get a clearer picture of what I'm doing, and then I'd be able to look at your chat in kind of a broader view and just have a better experience overall. Anyway, I'm getting a little distracted because I'm getting excited about the future of what a streaming studio might look like. So this problem that my wife described is written here, and there's a bunch of text, and it describes a whole scenario. But the long and short of it is that when she was looking ahead to the future week, she expected to see if you had a sequence of tasks A, B, and C, and A was on one week and B was supposed to be on the next week, what she saw instead of A and then B on the following Monday is the list jumped straight to C. So the astute among you, amongst programmers, can smell like, oh, that sounds like an off by one error, right? And it probably is. Thankfully, I have done the work previously to replicate this scenario. So I took everything that she described and I created this in a unit test. And I had it, and I didn't have time to fix it. So what we're going to do here is actually get down to the fix. But the problem is, it's been so long since I wrote that unit test that I don't remember. So we're going to I'm going to refresh my own memory, and you're going to see what the test is, and then we're going to see okay, what data is actually missing? What do we need to do to weave this in properly and get the real right answer? So let's kill the server, because there's actually nothing to see there. I mean, that was the issue, and we don't need to be playing with this because we're recreating this in data. But the concept, again, is just a reminder. A task is skipping, and it's skipping when you look ahead to the future. And that look ahead is the problematic part. It's an involved calculation that has to basically take all of the tasks that remain to do for a course and find the right index into the future to count how many days in ahead. And I think I figured out what was missing, and it's just a matter now of making sure that data gets factored into the calculation. So we can go to the app, and I'm actually going to let's run PyTest, and we're going to run it in verbose mode because I don't remember where the test was, and I'd marked it as something that is expected to fail, but I don't remember which one. So amongst the sea of green, there should be one yellow that pops up. That is an X fail, and that should guide us with any luck. There it is. So don't know if you caught it. I don't know how well the stream keeps up with that, but here it is. So have you named it yet? Got this comment on why it's there, and actually we're looking at 433. So I at least left a good enough trail of breadcrumbs so that we know that it corresponds to this issue. So let's go to this file, the students test models, and test, what was it? Get week with breaks. And you can guess by the method name what is going on there. All right. So I can run the individual test, and it's going to exfail on us. If you've not seen exfail before, it's a pretty cool feature. So I use PyTest as the test runner. And exfail just says, exfail means expected failure, in case that wasn't clear. And so it's a way to mark your test, and you can actually even see that it uses the PyTest mark feature, and you say exfail. And then you can actually provide it reasons too, and there's some other options that I think you can give to exfail, like skip on certain circumstances, or that actually might be the skip if mark. Anyway, the point is, exfail is an indicator that something is not right. So what we're going to do is comment out that decorator, and so now we're saying well, I'm not treating it as an expected failure anymore. So we're going to pretend as if it should be passing and it should fail. So we've got our assertion is failing, and so it needs to find. Apparently it needs to find this task, but it's finding some other task instead. And so here's a problem with my test, or I didn't didn't design it super clearly of like what is it actually finding instead. I think what it's really doing is finding this second one, this second task. And so, because let's look at the setup. So we've frozen the date and we're doing this calculation. So we've kind of fixing on time to set up the test scenario appropriately. And then we're getting the appropriate data that just makes a course that's valid and connected to a student. So I'm not going to walk you through all the modeling because it's not super important at this stage. Like as we get to little bits, it might become important. But the important part is down here where there's a task and another task. And then the other important element is this idea of a school break. So we get out a schedule, and then what the test is saying is that if this is working correctly, that it should be looking at and reporting that the next thing coming up for our schedule is this task. Instead, what you saw from that assertion failure is that it was some other task, which is probably actually this one. So let's actually test if that theory is right. So we'll call this other task for the moment, and then we will copy this assert and change the assertion here to other tasks. So I'm going to rerun this test again, and my expectation is that we're still going to fail on line 131 here. And that will prove, that'll get us in sequence. Okay, so now we understand it's the task that it's finding is actually the second task when it should be the first task. That is the assertion of the test. So the question is, why is it doing that? And did I put 433 in the code? I might have even found it in the actual model area, but I didn't have time to figure it out. And so let's use that as well to guide us on what's going on. So we'll have both the test and the actual code where this is applicable. All right. So I put it in here, and the reason I didn't have this done is because it's not an easy thing to like weave into the equation. So the to-do says that I have to subtract out any completed tasks from this number. I don't know how much that makes sense to me. Let me see. All right, so well, let me back up. Where are we? I know where I am, but most of you probably don't, and even those that have been following the stream probably don't. I mentioned earlier that the task calculation, when it shows a table of tasks, has to pull from what's left to do. So the tasks either have associated work that's done or not done. And so any task that's associated with a course that does not have any coursework means that it still needs to be done by the student. And so that's what's showing up here. These lesson 3, lesson 4, lesson 5 with all the gobbledygook are things that haven't been done yet by this student, Mark. And when you look ahead to the future, oops, I killed the server, so you can't see it there. Let's bring it up for just a second. When you look ahead to the future, you can see that normally this calculation seems like it's right. So it goes lesson 3, lesson 4, lesson 5. All right, that makes sense. And if you're going to finish these this week, then if you look ahead to the future, you would expect 6, 7, and so on and so on. The numbers aren't quite in sequence here because I think I deleted them from my task deletion branch, but at least these numbers are still correct. So what happens and where this goes wrong is if a break gets inserted somewhere in here, then it messes this up. It also had to do with the date on which the user looked. So that's where it gets complicated. All right, so what does this method do? This method, as you can see from the name, get the course task index. So to look for, if we're looking at this week, so let's go back and we're looking at the current week. We know that what we need to display in terms of tasks is at essentially index 0. And I think probably from your point of view, it's going this way, right? So 0 is like the latest, most recent task. It's the next thing to do. So I need to be able to show index 0, index 1, and index 2. As it jumps ahead to a future week, what do we get? Well, we know that if 0, 1, and 2 were there, then index 3 would be the task to fetch, right, in the sequence of tasks that remain to be done. And if that's all there was to it, then okay, this wouldn't seem like that hard of a problem. Like, just do the math and it's all good. Well, there's a lot of variables that can be in play here. Right now, this school week is showing Monday through Friday. That's actually configurable. So it could be that the school week is configured by the user to be Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or just Monday, or Monday, Tuesday, or 7 days a week, or like whatever. All of those are possibilities based on how a user wants to see it. So that can vary. The other thing that can vary is that the course itself can run on certain days. So the course could be a course that only is going to run on Tuesday and Thursday, for instance. So in that scenario, you want to have gaps on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So that factors in too. Another layer that gets thrown in here is if we look at the school year, I don't have any right now, but we can just add a break. Let's just add a break for 11, 18, 21. And we'll add this break. So now you can also have these breaks that factor in here too. And that's going to affect the index as well, because if we're looking ahead to next week, but this week had a break, then this week is really just index 0 and index 1 on the 17th and the 19th. And then on Monday, it would be index 2 instead of index 3, as it was just a moment ago, because the break has then affected that. Okay. So I kind of like really hammered hard on that point, but it just goes to show that this method right here has to factor in all of those conditions. And so I think what's actually happening here is that something in this is not getting it's just not getting the right number. So essentially, it's calculating the index incorrectly. And we have to figure out why. I think I set this up for a specific reason on the dates. So let's bring up the calendar again to see where time is supposed to be. It's saying that this is a Wednesday, and I have no reason to doubt myself when I wrote that comment. So from the point of view of the test, it's looking from a Wednesday, which is just like now, and then it's calculating the next week, so it's doing +7. Hey, Shivan, welcome. We're working on some bugs tonight. Hope you're doing well. So we're calculating the next week, and that's the view that we're going to look up. We're getting the week schedule. Do I have much experience with Wagtail? That is one of those Django areas where I don't actually have a ton of experience. I've poked at it, and it's pretty cool. But I haven't had a need to do my own kind of CMS thing, which is what Wagtails really excels at, right? I think I did. I'm trying to even remember if I did Wagtail anywhere. I used to do some contracting work. Ah, okay. Thank you. In the wintertime, the beard comes out. My wife also enjoys the beard. What was I saying? So I used to be a contractor. I used to do some contract work, and I did do some CMS stuff at the time, but I think I used the client had used a different Django CMS. Might have even been Django CMS. That's the name of a product, right? Django CMS. I think. Yeah. I think it was this one. Which, I mean, it was fine. It wasn't my favorite experience, truth be told. So Wagtail's pretty cool. And that'd be cool. Write your blog in it. I'm a big fan of the static site generators. But if I had to reach for a more dynamic thing, yeah, Django CMS is getting up there. If I had to reach for a more dynamic thing, Wagtail would probably be the one I'd pick too, because of my comfort level with Django. All right, so here's the problem with how to fix this is that we have to determine what should the calculation have been. The way that this test is written is we've got these two tasks, and the factory is making these one after the other, and so literally as a sequence of a time sequence, this is going to get, this will be ID 1 and this will be ID 2, for instance, and then we'll have all the associated effects of different timestamps that are literally later in time, because even running the test takes time, right? So what's happening is we're expecting the first task to be on the schedule and not the other task. And so the index should be 0, and what it's saying is it's 1. So it's off by 1. Now, why? All right, let me back up. There's actually a third task in here. All right. Apologize. I wrote the test a long time ago, and I know that I wrote it and made sense at the time, but I didn't really think about what was up, of why it was right or wrong. And I'm not really getting in my brain yet, and I'm not really describing to you well why the school break matters. So let's all walk through the test itself and see if we can piece together the story of what's off with the schedule, and then we can go look at the actual method and see, like, okay, what does this to-do comment really mean? So there's actually 3 tasks at play as I'm looking a little bit more closely at this. There is this coursework factory. As a side effect, it has a foreign key on a course task. So this is actually the first task that's created. And by being the first task, it's saying it's completed today. So we have, you know what, I apologize, y'all. I want to do this in the actual test data. And maybe you'll find that beneficial too. So we've got a task that is saying it is completed today. So let's set that up. So let's say Science 3, Lesson 3. Let's say it's completed today. So let's go to the daily view, and we will. Well, that's weird. We gotta fix. All right, pause. Something wonky's going on with my CSS here. That should not be there. Style bug on daily view. What the heck is this? That view normally looks... There's some weird stuff going on here. But I'll worry about that later. Oh, thanks for dropping in, Shivan. Good luck on your project. Okay, so we've got the U2. We've got the lesson 3 here, and we're going to save it. And so now that's been completed. So now we can return back to the week view, and we can see that it's kind of grayed out. We also have that break that I added, but that might not be the right thing that we want. So we need another task, which we have. We have lesson 4 kind of fits in the slot as, and for the moment I could, just to make it really clear, we could even call it lesson 4, just to really make it match up. I'll fix it later back to what it was, but so we tell a good story here on the stream. Let's call it like this, and then we can say, yeah. So this is going to be the lesson 3 task that was completed. We've got lesson 4, and then we've really got a lesson 5 here. Okay. So now we've set up our data similarly to what is in the test, except for we have this school break. And the school break says today that the start date of it is, okay, the start date is Thursday and Friday. So we're actually pretty close with this thing. So let's go back to this break. Whoops. We need to go edit this and edit the break to be 2 days. Okay. So if we return to the calendar, we've got lesson 3, break, break. So the assertion, what the scheduling bug is, the problem is, hopefully it should be really clear by now. We want to see lesson 4 be on Monday. But if the test data is to be believed that what I'm about to click this button, and if like we can reason about this, we'll really see lesson 5 appear instead. And that's exactly what happens. All right, so we've recreated the scenario. Right, Austin. Yeah, it's undraw. There you go. Here's the link. And that's for that's for these ones. If you're looking for the actual free artwork, like photography stuff, it's Unsplash. Good luck keeping those straight in your head. Unsplash is pretty cool too. I use this for blog posts and stuff. It's got a nice search engine and things in there. Both of them are really fantastic resources. And I frankly don't know what I'll do if they go away. I'll have to pay somebody. That's what I'll do. All right. So we need to poke around with this. And the beautiful part is, now that we've set this up with the test data too, we can not only work on the unit test and work in the abstract and work down here, which is going to get a little messy, but we'll be able to also, if there comes a point where it's I think we solved it, then we can jump over here and check out, oh, did we actually solve it? Because this would read as lesson 4, right, if this was done properly. Okay. So what is the actual problem? That's the real trick. That's what I don't know either. I'm going to just be truthful with y'all. So we need, what can we be checking here? And this is where, here's perhaps a flaw in my application right now, or I'll just say a weakness. The weakness is that I'm not doing logging anywhere. So in theory, if I had logging set up and I had debug logging on, I could run this test and we could see, it would say what paths it went down and give you a sense of what it was. Instead, that's not what I have. So we kind of have to budget to try and get the answer. And you can see, I don't even have, I don't have what this value should be. And, we know that here in the test, the index is 1, right? We talked about that, because that's what's going to jump to the next one when it should be 0. So the question is, what's calculating the 1? Is it coming from unfinished tasks this week, or is it coming from tasks between? That's something we have to narrow down. Now, my speculation is that it's coming from, well, maybe not. Is current week active? What does that mean? Today, oh, yes, this is the case that it's going to go down. So it's going to call this, and it's going to add it to that. So we want to see, is the f string of unfinished tasks this week. Whoops. I need to have something to actually pull from in there. And then we also have the tasks between. And don't worry about this is the actual calculation. I spent a absurd amount of time thinking through, so I've pretty much convinced myself this is the right way to calculate it, and I'm not even going to try and reason about it myself of why that's the case. But this should hopefully, we should get some data here. And all right, we've got our answer. So the value here is 1. And they should, if it was properly done, it would say 0. They'd both be 0, right? All right, so why? Now we're getting to the real heart of it. Why was it 1? Why did it think that it needed to, that there were unfinished tasks this week? And the variable name is actually cluing me in here. And now I'm finally understanding the to-do. Okay, I'm getting there. I gave myself enough to go on to actually get back to it. Hopefully you're starting to see it too. So unfinished tasks implies that there's more to do for the week. But the difference is there's actually not more to do, because the breaks are saying, no, in fact, there's nothing left to do. There's only breaks in place. So anything that would have been done this week that might have been there is being skipped because the breaks are there. So you need to subtract out the breaks, at least. What's a little funky to me is that this is returning a 1 when it seems like, wouldn't it return a 2? Like Thursday? Imagine there's no break here. If this is the date, is the current week active? It is. The today is less than the last school day of the week, so this is the active week. That's what I mean by that. Then how many unfinished tasks are there this week? Well, that in my brain would be Thursday and Friday, so it seems like that'd be 2. They don't really get this, so maybe we need to dig into what is in the school year model, and there's probably some clue that says what really goes on here. Maybe it's non-inclusive. All right, or maybe it's the range is surprising us here. So it is doing a task count. It says it's doing a task count and factoring in any breaks. That's curious, because I am not convinced that it is. And I've been in this method so many times, y'all. I really should instrument this stuff better, because this is the hard part of the application. It's the hard part of the logic to get right. And I feel like I should just have this permanently. Maybe I will this time. Maybe I'll just leave in some comment print statements so that if I ever need to come back, I can quickly get this stuff again. So what do we need in here? Let's get it all. So I want to see the start date. And this is an F string. So we want start date. And we also want the end date. All right, now let's run the test again. Well, that's curious. It ran the schedule twice. Why did it do that? What? So one of those seems right. One of these pairs seems like 2 dates. Well, no, it doesn't. It's asking for, aha. Aha, okay. The date range is not what I expected it to be. So this test is actually looking ahead a week. That's what I'm forgetting. It's asking for, given a week schedule, it needs to go look at today and next week. So today is like the current context, because it matters whether you're looking at the current day or the future. It's time relativity here. Like, it gets really awkward. And then the thing it needs to check against is next week. So why does it call this multiple times? I don't remember. Shoot, man. This stuff is deep in the code. So if push comes to shove, we will get in the debugger. Or maybe we should get in there now. I'm not amazing at the debugger, but we'll get in there now. So let's put in a debugger. And I know I have an old keyboard shortcut there, which is why it's pdb set trace. I know I should be using the new debugger statement, and I just haven't updated Vim to do that. Okay, so we need test nearest, and we're going to need to pass in the pdb flag to pytest. That's what I'm going to do. What that should do is bring me to there. But I want to put a breakpoint. Man, I can't see it. Boo. All right. Let's hold on a minute. Let's get out of there. I want to do it over here where we can actually have both the code up. This is where I do think Vim is a little weak on its debugging abilities, and I know I could make it really better, but if I spent the time, but I just don't. So we want to run. Hold on. Let's take this, copy this, and continue. Okay. We're going to run it here. So we are now here. We're about to go into the week schedule, which is where we want to be. But I actually want to go to the first time that this get task count range is called. So we saw it called twice because it printed out 2 pairs of dates, and I don't know why it was called twice. So I want to figure that out first. So the way that we can do that is we can set a breakpoint directly on this line so that we can jump to this point. So let's say we want to set the breakpoint on 117 here. So I think the syntax to do that is breakpoint. Oh boy, users, homeschool. Was this students? Yep. Nope. It was schools. Schools models .py 117. I think that's the right syntax. So you give it the file name, you give it the line number, and then now that the breakpoint is there, we can continue to that point, and it goes right to that start date. Now that we're here, you can see that we're in this method call. We can use the where functionality of PDB. So that's W, and that gives you this stack of what's going on. How did this get called? So here's we're in this test. But so we really don't care. There's like a bunch of PyTest crap up here. I mean, it's important for PyTest, but not important for debugging this test. So we're really mostly interested in the bottom part of this call stack. And if you've never looked at call stacks before, they're not that scary. All it is the order of things that are called, and then Python kind of just remembers where it is in that whole set there. So we get we can trace back, like if you follow it all the way back, you can get to like what is start of the program. So there's a console main script way up here. It's pretty cool. But what we're interested in is how did this get called in the first place? So the sequence of events. So we are getting here from we're calling the week schedule, and that's not a shocker. And we're building the course tasks. That makes sense. We're trying to get to which tasks to display. So it has to, that's where the index is going to need to be calculated. And in this, there's this private build course tasks method that is calculating the tasks index at line 146. So 146, there it is. Build the course tasks. So we get the tasks index. But why does it get called a second time? That's what I want to see in a minute. Yeah. So that makes sense. That first one makes sense. Let's continue and come back to this. Now we're at the second time. So where is this coming from? It's building the week schedule. 146. What? Yeah, test with breaks. Week schedule. All right, what did I miss? There's something I missed here because it seems like we're doing the same thing. Get course task index. 146, 259. All right, what happened there? All right, I missed it, so we're gonna try it again. I think it means I have to do the same. I gotta do that same breakpoint nonsense. Like here's where you can see where I really should set this up. There are pretty good command line debuggers too that I've used in the past but never got good with. I'm drawing a blank. Python, BPDB, something like that. All right, we're gonna set that breakpoint again. I'm gonna copy this in case we have to do this a third time. And so we're here. We're at where the breakpoint started, and we can continue. Now we're at the code, and you can do L. L is the list command in PDB, and it shows you where the breakpoint is, so what line we're paused on, and you can keep hitting L. If this is a PDB tip, is that like if you put in a command, one of these one character commands, and you can also do like the full command like list. If you hit enter again, it will repeat your last command. So here, what you saw me do is I did list, and it kind of prints out more. I want to say that you can do the list bang, go back. No, there's some way to like get back to where you were. I think it was LL or something, which is like cycle back to in case you forgot where you were. We're in our method, and now we're gonna go look at this. I'm going to pay more careful attention to it this time. So we were at the week schedule in the test. This is line 131 on test models. This is like right in the test, which is over here. Okay, cool. And it calls ooh, I wonder if there's multiple students. Maybe there are multiple students. Kind of embedded somewhere in here. There's definitely a student, but there might be multiple students. All right, let's do this. Let's do pretty print the whole week schedule. All right. Nope, there's just one student. There's only one course, so there's only one set of tasks to build, right? Well, shoot, what's going on? And I feel like I have to understand this in order to like actually get down to the problem, because I need to know remember what we're trying to, where we are mentally in our own stack, or at least my own stack, is like I need to understand why that calculation of unfinished tasks for the week is returning 1 when, as I described, it seemed like it should be returning 2 because there's a break on Thursday and a break on Friday. That's what I don't get. So we're at the week schedule. Let's just trace it down one at a time, I guess. We're at the student week schedule. So that's line 73. And Getting a little tight. And we're at the week schedule. There should be only one course, right? Because we saw when we printed the week schedule that there was only one course. So is build course test, is this called multiple times? No? The only way I could think this is called multiple times is if there's multiple courses. Because there's a for loop, and the only way this could be called multiple times is if the for loop has multiple iterations. Oh. Alright, we're gonna get really crude. For course. Okay. And let's run the test again. Dude, what is going on? Why is this? How is this called multiple times? Okay. Alright, we're gonna have to. I didn't want to have to do this, but I'm at that point now. I'm feeling stuck. So, do it again. We're going to continue to that breakpoint. Actually, I think we're already there for this one. So, we're here. This is the first time. And we're going to then step through. So we're on this loop, and we can go next. There's that first printed date, and this is the date is for the 21st. That's next week. Which, whoops, man, calendar. Okay, we'll keep this handy. Calendar is the 21st is, sorry, so the school week starts on the Sunday officially, even though it's a break day. Or it's not an official school day, but that's when the week is considered to start. All right, that makes sense. That's why it's saying the 21st, or at least I understand that. Okay. So that's now the next date. So that's the end. Why is the end date that? What the heck? The end date. It's only 2 days later. Okay. I kind of would anticipate that the end date would be like the end of the week. So I'm really like not getting what it's doing here. Maybe I said the course runs on fewer days? No. Standard course, and I know my course factories, so they're scheduled to run Monday through Friday in my factory setup. So that should be all week. This school break is for, this is part of the problem, but I don't think it even has come into the equation in this calculation yet. All right. 146 student models. Get task count in range. Am I looking at the right thing? I think I'm getting lost, y'all. Get task count in range. Who did we say was calling that? That's called by the school year. And we're looking at, this is the school year. So this is the method on the school year. And it received, we're in this method. So we should have the course available to us. That's the course. That's a local variable. And start date is the 21st. Okay. And it's a fake date because we used freeze time. End date is the 23rd. Why? That seems wrong. Like I would expect. Okay, here's where my brain is thinking. It seems like it's trying to get the schedule for the next week. The next week should be like all the way to the end of the week. But the 23rd is a Tuesday. Like what the heck? What's going on there? So something seems off about what's going into that set of data there. And maybe that's related to the problem. This is why I'm like harping on this, is like what's going on here. All right, so the thing I said I wanted to do is continue. I want to keep going and find out why this was even called a second time. So let's just do that. Let's walk through it, and it's going to go through the task count in range, and we're going to keep going through a bunch of for loop junk. Okay, task count at this point we're at the return, so it was a 1. Task count in that range. Well, that sounds weird too, doesn't it? Like 21. Oh, okay, 21 was a Sunday. And is it inclusive? Be inclusive of the start and the end. Well, that seems weird. If it's the start is the 21st and how did that work? Oh man, there's so much on this that I'm like, what's going on? Okay. I need like some notes. Where can we write down some notes? Let's put them in the test. What have we discovered so far? So we've got build course task is called twice. Once with 11:21 to 11:23, and it's returning 1 from the task count. But the method says that the range should be included, should be inclusive. So why 1 and not 3? Right? Let's oh yeah, you might be right. Am I looking at, dang it, freezing time. Thank you, Fred. I appreciate that. Oh my word. I feel so foolish. Well, let's look at July. Good grief. Hey, that makes way more sense. Ah, Kuhalam, welcome. Good evening to you too. All right, so now that Fred has so gently nudged me back towards the right calendar month, let's retry. I wonder my brain could just was not processing that, and rightfully so. But I was so in it that I couldn't get out of the cognitive dissonance to figure out that something was amiss. Okay, so there's still some questions there. Yeah, try doing a few more things. I still have questions about this. So we're at the 21st. That's the freeze time thing. Cool. If it's looking ahead to, remember, we're calling for the schedule for next week. So why is it building the course tasks over the 21st through the 23rd? That seems wrong, right? Maybe I set up the test data incorrectly. Because next week should be next week, not, it should be 20. All right, let's look at this properly now. The next week, if we're looking in the real analog, would be the 25th, right? So what's happening? All right. Next week, what are you? Oh, come on. Yeah, next week. There it is, 25th through the 31st. Okay. So still confused. Why is this called the 24th and we'll keep at it. Okay. I guess I'm kind of at the point where I feel like I need to walk through this as if I was the computer. So maybe a technique I got in school at one point or learned somewhere in my career. So here we are. We're going to pretend that we're the interpreter. This is being called with getting the schedule, passing the school year today and next week. In fact, we don't have to pretend. We can actually use the debugger here, and rather than jumping to continue, just follow it from the start. So here we are. We're going to step into this. That's what S does. It's short for step. And so we need to get the week dates for the week. Today is the 21st of July, not November. And the other parameter was, well, the problem with this mode is that it's hard to see because I don't have a, all right, I'm not going to do it here. I'll do it over here. We can actually look at the code. All right, so step in here. And so now we're looking at get the week schedule. So we are here. And eventually, so the hard part that we've been dealing with is somehow this is getting called twice. Build course tasks. But I think that the courses is a single course with the test. So actually, why don't we just go step, or next, this is important. Okay, step versus next. And if some of you are like debugger pros, I apologize, but step means like go into. That's how I think about it. Go into some code. So if you're at a line and that line has a method call on it or a function call, you did step, you would actually step into the function call or the method call and then proceed from there. So you're like digging deeper and deeper into the stack. There are times though where you don't care, like you're pretty confident that the method on that line works. For that stuff, you use next, and that's like go over some code. All right, so you kind of use them like to either drill down or advance, and they sort of go hand in hand. So like get week dates for a week, like I'm not concerned about that. So I can hit N to like skip over that, and here I can remember if you hit enter after you've issued a command, it will just repeat the last command. So I can hit N, and then N, and then N. All right, so now we're here. We've gotten the courses. There's a single course, right? This is why I'm getting confused about why it's calling build course tasks multiple times. It doesn't seem like that should be the case. So let's just continue. So we're in our sequence. We're up here. We're going to advance. We're going to go into the loop. And I'm just going to try and go through the loop and see where does build course tasks get called. Now, because I don't have a breakpoint on here, so I think we can put that breakpoint. So we can, if we get to that, if I do a next over something and there's that breakpoint, it'll still stop there. So maybe we'll catch it at some point. So we're here. We're going to advance over some stuff. Where did I go? Okay. Next, 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 next. Okay, so we're at our courses. We're at that print statement. So we're trying to build up the course task. I'm going to jump over this, and I'm going to hit that breakpoint for that first time, I think. Getting all those parameters. And we're about to step over it, but I tried to step over it, but it hit that first get task count thing. So here's where we have to advance. Now we have to advance out of this to get kind of bubble back up the stack. There is a way. Is it return? I don't know. Let's learn together, because I'm not the foremost expert on PDB. There are other PDB commands that I think will allow you to return back from the stack, or like finish, basically allow a method to complete that you don't care about the results, but you do want to not just continue indefinitely. I think it's return. Nope. So here we are. You can see these are the short names that you get a letter for the stuff, and you can move up and down the stack if you wanted to. I don't find that very useful. What am I looking for? Not step or next. Okay, yeah, return. Continue execution until the current function returns. So we don't really care about this version of get task count, so let's do return on that. And hopefully it's telling us the actual value here is a 1. So we can do, are we back here? Whoa, we're back here. Being called a second time already? Why? What happened? So all the interesting stuff happened in that moment with that return. That was not what I expected. Okay. You know what? I bet it's going to be something dumb. Like this is going to be like 2 lines in a row in this method. Get course task index. Would you look at that? There it is. It's 2 in a row. So that method that we've been staring at, and I've been like really racking my brain on what the heck's happening, is it's happening twice, and I just didn't see it. It's happening here in this if clause, but it's also happening down here with tasks between. Okay. All right. Gosh, I get so tired of this method. All right, well, at least we know why that is. And we can probably reason about, like, why is it the same for the second time? Yeah, yay. Progress, right? So what this must tell me is that, yeah, this is starting to make sense. Because look, today, well, is it though? Is it making sense? Because I said I wanted the schedule for next week. See you, Fred. Thank you for the help. Thank you for the pointer, pointing me to the right month. Have a good evening. Or day. I can't remember where you are. Canada, so probably evening. Roger. Very good. Take care. So why did this get called? Like, this should have been next week. And maybe that's indicative. It could be indicative of why this thing over here is failing. Like, the boundary range is, maybe it's just passing in the wrong input to start. Like, the calculation could just be wrong somehow. I'm perplexed. Okay, let's do this again, but this time let's pay attention a little bit more with the starting dates that were passed in. As we said, this thing gets called with the next week. Next week. Next week. Oh, come on. Is it next? What? There it is. Okay, I'm trying to get to the stir method. I thought that P would do that, but apparently it gets you the actual memory location. So next week is supposed to be looking ahead to the 25th through the 31st, but it seems like it's doing its calculation on the current week. And maybe it needs to. Maybe it has to, like, this might make sense because it has to calculate, in order to calculate the index to look up into the course table, it has to factor in all of the time before next week. And in this test example, it only happens to be that 1 week. I bet if we adjusted this to be looking like 2 weeks in the future, it would have to calculate for the the current week that it's in, and the week, and then the following week. So this is probably appropriate for the calculation, but it's still there's still some stuff going on. That's like how did it get to that point to decide that? Okay, get All right, maybe we can stare at the actual, like, the data. Let's step in here. Next, next, next. And we can say, what is week dates? All right, so it is looking ahead to like 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, which in looking at the calendar, that would be Monday through Friday, which is right. And we're doing this for one course. That's good. Get over that blob of stuff. So courses should be one course. Course is running, so we have to build a course schedule. So far, so good. Calls course tasks once. So we have to build the course tasks. This is now next week, and if we look at the parameters that are passed in here, we have to look at passing in today, or it's going to pass in today. It's going to pass in the week first day, which is the 25th, and the week end date, which is the 30th. All this feels right so far, which it should. It's most of the time the scheduling stuff is doing its job. Okay. So we'll go in here. Now we're one level deeper, and we're in the actual building course tasks. And we can go over this. Now we're at the line that actually matters. It's going to pass in the week start date, which is the 25th. And today is the 21st. So as we go in here, it's going to do some logic. So let's step in here. Okay. So here we are. Let's go over a few of these lines, and I know the week start date is not going to be less than today, so it's not going to return 0. It's going to go over that. So it's in the more complicated part. So this is this first part here, line, what's showing up here is 221 and 222. This is the current week. It's the easy case. It's like, you want to look at this week? Okay, just give me the latest tasks. Then everything else, and all of my trouble with this application, frankly, is when it wants to look ahead to the future. I spend more time staring at this future view than probably any other spot in the code. And that's because it's the hardest part. But it's also the part that is like most valuable to my customers. They want to be able to look ahead. of like what's coming up in their school year, and they want to have stuff calculated accurately from this. So it has to be right. All right, so we're going to go over this line, and now this week is what? Print this week. So it's the current week. So July 18 through 24. All right. Now let's also go over the latest coursework. And I think for this test there was coursework. So before advancing on here, let's see that this is not none. Whoops. Yep, there's an object here. So this if condition, this week's first day, so this week, first day, latest coursework, completed date. All right, so it should set the start date to be, should go into this if clause. And it does. So the start date is going to be set to the 22nd. I'm reading this right. What's the start date? 22nd. Good. All right. Logic is working. So that means that like it's doing the calculation of when to calculate the index based on after the last coursework was done. So if somebody's working on their week and they mark that their student has done something on Thursday, well, it's possible somebody could say, like, lie and say that that's in the future, and they're marking it anyway. But usually people wouldn't do that. So it's making the assumption that if you've marked the coursework as that date, that we can calculate after that date because time has passed that point. It's not a fully accurate assumption. There's nothing in the system that will stop someone from marking something done in a future state, but it's probably reasonable enough for almost every scenario. So we want to start calculating that index to look up after that date, which means start on the 22nd. We have to calculate the range from the 22nd onward. And I think that's going to go into, well, when does that go into? Where's that start date used? Where are we? I lose myself. Get course task index. All right. Start date. Where are you used? Whoa. Did I not use it? What? Oh, that's weird. That seems wrong. I'm like creating this whole little local variable and then I don't use it. What's up with that? I've got the week start date. And then weird. Okay. Well, I feel like it should be the week. It should be using this. So I need to find out what was this for. I must have used this at some point in time. And it seems that I either made a mistake or because if this is not actually the case, then this is not doing anything right now. And that seems wrong. That's a different method. That's like a so this is not used anywhere in this method. Aside from being assigned to. So what happens? Okay. Well, the only place I could think that it would be needed, possibly, is right here. What happens if I change this? Now, I'm probably just causing myself problems. Did I break any other tests? Still just that one test failure. I'm afraid of what that does, though. I feel like I don't really understand what I just changed. But I know at some point that was the right thing, so something weird's going on. All right, well, I'm going to work on that mystery a little later. I don't think it's part of the solution necessarily, but I'm going to leave myself a note of what method is this? Get course task indexed. To do. Why is start date not used? Okay, and then this is get course task index start date. For some reason, start date is not used. Why? So, one thing that I've learned over the years is focus on one problem at a time. So we'll set that one aside and return back to problem at hand. Though it might be part of the solution, but I don't want to jump to that conclusion. So this is What was that issue number? 495. Let's do it like this. C 495. Okay. Still not necessarily any closer figuring out why this index calculation was a 1 when it should have been a 0. Aha, okay. So this get task count is returning a 1, so saying that there's 1, but the date range on it that we've seen numerous times now, it's 21 through 23. That also doesn't really like make sense. Like, why is that not 2? So perhaps what needs to be done is to step through that first call and see why you're returning a 1 when you shouldn't be. That's where this may be off. I think that's the case. And this to-do comment might be lying to me, but maybe not. We'll get there. Oops, I took out the PDB. Let's just put it over here too. I think if we do that, it'll stop there when it gets to it a second time. Okay. So here we are again. And this time we should be able to check the start and end date. They should be the 2 dates, the 21st and 23rd. This is a task count in this range. And this method says get the task count for, I think it is, my comment is right. Okay. And I see what the problem is. This is right. All right, this range, the comment says that it's inclusive, right? Be inclusive of start and end. So we have 21, 22, and 23, right? The breaks for this test are a school break that is after today. So that would be, remember, if time is frozen and today is the 21st, then the start date for this break is the 22nd. Yes? And the end date is the 23rd. Those are both true. So as this thing's looping through, it checks and it says, are you a break? And if it's a break, it doesn't add to the count. So the 2 conditions, the course has to be running and you have to not be a break. And then only then it adds to the count. So the answer that we're actually getting out of here right now is correct, because what is the task count for this range? Is like just saying how many tasks would be in this range, not factoring in any other information. All it's factoring in is breaks. So how many tasks are in this range? And the answer truly is 1, because that range 21, 22, 23 has that one task that's on the 21st. So it's giving the right answer. So the comment here is saying, well, actually, it's not truly the unfinished tasks. What it really is the how many tasks could be left in this range. Because the task that is on that Wednesday is done. So what we need to do then is check in that range of 21, 22, 23, how many things of coursework were there, and subtract it from this value. So that comment actually, the answer's been staring at us the whole time, and my past brain got to this point, but I didn't have it. And now I think here's where the problem comes. And the reason I didn't solve it way back then is mostly because the data is not very easy to get, pretty sure. Like this method, it has the course, and I suppose maybe this is only called once, or it might be called, well, I don't know. I don't know if it's called, what am I trying to say? I'm not concerned. I'm wondering if there's a performance problem that's like embedded in here somewhere. And maybe not, because this is only going to happen on this if the current week is active. That's where the calculation comes in. And like otherwise it's going to the 0 case. So it's really not that bad of a problem to do this extra query that we're going to need to do. And what is that extra query? So we need to take I think the solution of that might actually be relatively easy now that I'm thinking about it, because we have the course, and what we need is the coursework count. We need how many in this coursework range, same range as what was supplied here today and last school day this week. So that same exact range. How many things of coursework were there? And the answer in this test is going to be 1. So this will come back as 1, and this will come back as 1. And if we subtract them, then we'll get 0, which will give us the right index, and it won't skip ahead in that future week, which is exactly what we want. Geez, that is a lot of work to find out that one answer. So thank you for bearing with me, and this is just something I had to work through and was needed for what my customer needs. So that's what we had to do. So this isn't actually unfinished tasks this week, at least not yet. This is really like remaining tasks this week. So what we really want is to say unfinished tasks this week is equal to remaining tasks minus completed tasks. Neither of those variables exist yet, but we can make one that exists. And let's do it, we'll call this one remaining tasks. That's a count. So it's a little bit of a lie. It's not actually tasks, it's just a count. And the other thing that we want to do is we definitely don't want a negative number, because we don't want to index on that. So if somehow my logic is wrong. We want to take a 0 value. So we need to kind of clamp this down. And I've done that elsewhere with either min or max. I can't. Yeah. Well, I thought I had that. Maybe not. Somewhere along the way, I use some clamping. So if we want, I can never remember quickly how to do this. We want so if the max, we never want the negative number. We want the max between, yeah. So like if it was -1 and 0, oops, we want to take 0. We want to use max. So we either it's a positive number because there are remaining tasks to do, or it's 0 if somehow I got this calculation wrong. That's probably maybe overly defensive code, but I'm okay with this. So what do we need here? We need, and this is per student, you have to remember as well. So we need the coursework has to be 2 things. There is a coursework model that we can go look at really quickly. Coursework is a foreign key and a task. So what we need is the completed tasks count is going to be equal to completed task, and it's the coursework objects, and we want to filter on students is equal to self, because we go to, like, there could be multiple students in this course, and so we only care about the coursework that they did. That's what the task range is also considering, so that's important. And then we want course task course is equal to this course. And now by doing this, we now have the count of how many things they did, which should be 1 right here. So out the other side of this, we should have a 0, which should give us the right answer here. I'm going to do PDV, so let's just continue through those. Oh man, dang. Oh, we're failing. No. We still have that old assert in there where I was proving something out. So it's failing on this first assert, which is what we wanted to, what we was passing before. Okay. Hey, green. Awesome. All right, let's clean up this gigantic mess I made. We used a lot of like scratch pad stuff. Thankfully, this is why we have version control. We can come back in and clear out the junk. So let's get this back to, I probably have some other print statements. Okay, and then, whoops. Unfortunately, I did not reduce my to-do count because I created a new problem for myself and discovered this start date nonsense. That's unfortunate. We've got our new to-do comment. Okay. We've got the actual fix, I think. Go over to the test. The test is still a mess. So we want to get rid of all these notes in this PDB set trace. And if we can remove this to do now, I'm going to leave the course task because that was what was proving that it was right. I'm going to change lesson 4 back to task because lesson 4 is not going to mean anything in the future. It was just illustrative for the purposes of this stream. And we'll get rid of the pretty print. What are we left with? We're left with the fix. Oh, I still got a print statement in there. So we get rid of the print. We get rid of the X fail. And now what are we left with? We've got the X fail and the to do removed. We've got our 2-line fix, which took an hour and a half to find. Ridiculous. But I'm pretty confident this is the right answer. Let's start this up. And reload our week here. And look ahead, and now it's lesson 4. Doing it right. Lesson 3 is done. Break. Lesson 4. Lesson 5. That's very exciting. I think that fixes my customer's bug. There is another scheduling bug, but I don't know that I don't know that I have the energy to think about another one. And it's possible that this scheduling bug actually solved that one too. I might have to go back to my other customer and say like, hey, does this actually seem like it's fixed now? All right. So we're done here. Let's add this and commit it. Well, you know what? Actually, probably would make sense to run run all this code through coverage, make sure it doesn't blow up on CI. I recently made a faster makefile target that will run the coverage suite and not take a long time. Whoops. Failing test. What did we break? I got another query. Yep. All right, so there's one more query now in this weekly view. That's not avoidable because we have to query how much coursework there was. We can go to that test and fix that. Dashboard test weekly. My dashboard, it has probably the most queries in the app. Oh, we also have what? Is coverage missing in a test file? Where's that? 293. Oh, now the assertions are failing. Boo. Okay. There's some other stuff here. Got to see if I perhaps broke something else that I didn't anticipate. At least it's got rid of that whatever coverage issue I was complaining about. Well, let's go to the test weekly view. We're already there. And let's close out that other test and this. And let's see it all. This one's kind of obnoxious because it's so big. There's so much data to assert on that it's hard to see what's different. So I'm going to do test nearest, and we give it the verbose, the double V verbose, and it can tell us which one is off. So let's check. Maybe I broke the current week by doing this. bring the local web server back up. No, that still's right. Could be that my just assertion in my weekly view is off, and I never realized that it was off, and now that it's been corrected, I just need to bump the data. All right, so we want run this thing with these parameters and -vv. Okay, there's that whole mess up there. I should probably, you know what I should do? I should change the course task repr to add the ID in it. Because I never print out course tasks just as they are, just like they're printed here. So let's do that, because that's really, it's really hard. Like, because this is all fake data that is produced by Faker, I get the task description, but at that point, it's useless. Like, it's just meaningless description. It's reflective of real data, but it doesn't tell me anything from a testing perspective. So let's go to the course models, and let's go down to this, the stir, and let's mix in the ID. So let's do f self ID and self name. Now, if we run the same test, course task should have, whoops, nope, that was the course. No wonder that was wrong. Float, oops. Course task is what we're after. Okay, description. That's, yeah. So f self ID, self description, close it. So now we'll probably see like off by 1 and oh, phooey. Okay. I'm using hash IDs, which is really useful, but here I was hoping to get the integer. So let's change this from hash ID to PK. CFilms, welcome. Hope you're welcome to ask me anything about Django, Python. That's what I'm here for. We're working through a really tricky scheduling bug in my homeschool application, which is a Django app that I've been streaming about. That's what I normally stream about. And I'm pretty deep into some scheduling logic and wrapping things up, but happy to answer any questions you might have. All right, let's try the PK. And that should give us a primary key number, I hope. Oh, come on now. All right. Django hash ID field. There's probably a way that you can get the actual underlying PK that I just can't remember when you want to reference it. Probably given a hidden name or something like that. And it's doing the thing that I want it to do in almost every context. This is one time where I was hoping that I could just get the integer description or the integer value instead. Well, phooey. It's kind of wrapped up. I bet it's accessible with the repr or something like that, but that's not what's available with the stir method. Okay, well, so much for that idea. I'll solve that problem another day. So we'll have to do this a little bit more brute force, which is to say that, close that, we've got these tasks, and this is task 2. And what is task 2? Let's print task 1, 2, 3, and 4. 3, 4. That's going to be the only thing I can think of that will quickly get us that we can match up the descriptions. So it thought it was, the test says that it's expecting task 2, but instead it got, drum roll, population nor, which doesn't even show up on this list. What in the world? Okay. But the next one is task. That's task 2, right? Because I printed out 1, 2, 3, and 4. So this is task 2. And task 2 is appearing on Wednesday. When it should be appearing, when it's saying it should be appearing on Monday. All right, let's look ahead. Let's see what this is actually. I have not looked at this test in so long. Saying that today we want now to be a Friday. That's what it's doing. This is one of my earliest tests. You can see that I wrote this back in January of 2020. I generally, when I'm writing a test, I will just use the date of the current day or nearby, and pick the time frame that I'm in to work with real dates. I much prefer using relative dates, but sometimes it's easier to kind of pin this, which is what I did. I pinned it in a way. I patched out time zone. The other ways I've done this is with freeze time. So this is a Friday, but it's looking ahead. It's looking to the next week. That's the important part. It's looking to the next week. We got to kind of build up this story of what's happening. There is a task that is completed on Monday of the week. All right, let's go back to that time period. So Friday is the 24th, Monday is the 20th. That task is done on the Monday. Okay. So if we were to see this on the schedule, it would look like something filled in, grayed out on Monday. Cool. This course runs, this is important, runs Monday. It does not run Tuesday. That was the important detail that I took out here to test that weird behavior of a course that does not run every day of the week. So it runs Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So of the things that would be here, Monday would be grayed out with this first task. That makes sense. Tuesday would be skipped because the course doesn't run that day. Another task is created. Because this is a Friday, this task would appear on the current week. That's true. Okay, so the way that the scheduling system works is that whatever date this is, if it hasn't been completed, it kind of rolls stuff forward. So Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of this current week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, are all empty. And this course task right here would be the one that's on the 24th. So we now have one that's done on the 20th, one that's done on the 24th. Or one that's not done on the 24th. It's still waiting to be done. These tasks would roll forward to next week's view and appear on the expected schedule. One. Is it right? It's going to be bad news if it's right. Oh. Wow. 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 I think I see what I did. This would have really bit me pretty hard. All right, so where's that coursework thing? This was really foolish. Student models. Oh yeah, so dumb. This only worked on that other test because I only had one piece of coursework. But what I've done right now is I've left this completely unbounded in terms of what dates to care about. So really, I only wanted the completed tasks that are in this date time range. But instead, I said, give me all of them, which is really foolish. So, if there had been 100 tasks that the student had already done, it would have been 100, which is way wrong. So we got lucky here that this other task caught this because it's correct. And it had more data in it, so it was enough to catch it. So really what we want is we need to filter this down even further. So coursework, that model, last coursework, it has a completed date, which is a date field. So we can say completed date is less than or equal to today. We got to get everything that's in this range. Or completed date is greater than or equal to the last school day this week. Those are the two bits that I have that wrong. I have those backwards. Is greater than or equal to today and less than or equal to the last school day. Because today is this condition only happens when today is farther back in time than the last school day of the week. So we want all of the tasks that are completed in that range. Now if we do that, does the test pass? There we go. All right, well, this is why we do better testing. I really got, that was a lucky break. And I had even thought about, I know I needed to filter on this completed date stuff, but I got so excited about getting a solution that I forgot to make it the right solution. With any luck, we'll have 100% coverage now with no failing tests. Hooray. Okay. And once we get rid of those print statements, we do have the query count bump. Yep, okay. We'll add those. Now we'll look at the whole diff. We bump up the query count, and we've got the start date that we're still not sure what's going on there. We'll have to come back to that. But we adjusted this unfinished task calculation by factoring in the tasks that are done in the right range, and we've got everything working there. So now I think we're finally ready to commit this fix. Fix unfinished task this week. Calculation to factor in completed tasks, which fixes number 443, was it? 4433. All right, we'll push that up. And done with our calendar. We can return back to the issues list. We've got our scheduling bug. Oh, booey. So I looks like I had grouped them in the same bug. There's actually two different bugs. So this one was from my spouse, and this one was from a different customer. Well, okay. Check on the other issue reported by the second customer. Man, thought I'd have that one closed out for good. All right. Well, I'm definitely not. I've just spent the last 2 hours working on this one bug, even though it was a small fix. That's the way of things. I think next stream, I don't think I have the willpower to work on one of those other scheduling bugs. There are other things that I've got a couple of rounds of user feedback. I'd reached out to some potential customers, asking them like, what would you want to see in the product before you would consider using it? And maybe there's some stuff we could go through there. There's also the possibility of fixing some of these other smaller things that that had been reported. I don't know. We'll probably just pick a spot and work from there on user feedback. That's kind of the key right now. Like I did that feature that was requested by a user. So a lot of the work that I'm doing on this are driven by things that users are requesting, but it's a balance of when am I adding features versus fixing bugs that are in there. So I spent a handful of streams working on the bulk delete feature. So I'll probably spend a handful of streams working on this kind of polish, and I'll go back and forth through this kind of cycle. Hopefully you found the stream interesting at some level, even got very deep, and I will take this content and post up on YouTube. So I want to thank you all for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Take care.